Hey there YouTube fans, AC Productions here. Today I'm going to be showing you on how to make a cell phone charging port for your cell phone holder. Now as you can see here, I have the RAM mount cell phone holder, and I actually started doing this project before really thinking about it. I should have started from scratch on showing you guys on how to do it. I'm still going to show you. I only did one step until it dawned to me to actually do the video for you guys. It's just because I'm going to be doing an install for a customer. A little background on that part is that thanks to my YouTube channel, I became more confident on doing installs on other people's bikes after working on my own bike. After doing a few videos on my own bike, people started liking what I've done to my bike and were asking me to do it on their bikes, and therefore little by little I've been starting to work on other people's bikes. So now I'm pretty much known as the headlight guy because of the headlights that I've done on my bike. Everybody likes it, so I've become a known installer here in Chicago. So enough about that. Now getting back to this. So we have a RAM mount, and this one is with a U-bolt, and this one's going to connect to your handlebars. So we're going to put this off to the side, and the things that you're going to need to make this work, I'll show you right now. You're going to need a USB charging one like this one. I would say this would be the best one to get considering what cable we're going to be using. So this is the part that it plugs into on the connector that we're going to be using, which is like a battery tender kind of plug. And then when you flip this little lip over here, this little cover, it reveals the USB port. So therefore you would just plug in your cable and then you're able to charge your device. And when you're not using it, you could just go ahead and close it. So that's this piece here. Next, you're going to need the power cable for this to connect to. Now here's the cable that I've selected. Also it has just like a battery tender connector. You undo that and then you go ahead and plug it like so. So once you get it in there, a nice tight connection, it looks like so. So this is how it looked like. And then it does come with a fuse. I believe it is a, let's see, oh, it's a 7.5 amp fuse, and it does come with this power connector. And then you have your positive and your negative leads that go to your battery. Positive, negative, there's your charger. Now the only minus thing about this setup, and this is what I'm going to show you also, is that once you plug this into your battery, it's running hot, meaning that it's always giving power to this, even if you're using this or not. In order to fix that problem or that issue, we're also in this video, I'm going to connect it with a switch. Now this is a light up switch. This is going to be for the customer. His favorite color is blue. So this one, once he turns it on, the light is going to turn on blue to let him know that the power for his cell phone charger is on. When he doesn't need the cell phone charger, he'll turn this off, he'll turn off the light. So the reason I bought it with the light is just for an indication to let you know that you have your cell phone charge port on. And therefore, when you turn off your bike, you don't forget that to turn off your power for the cell phone port. So having a connection like this, it doesn't have to be a LED switch. It could be just a regular on and off switch, but it's up to you. I prefer to have an LED switch just so that you know that, your switch is on. So it's just a little reminder to let you know, hey, power's on, don't forget to turn it off. The reason I'm doing the switch is just to prevent from battery drainage. If he happens to leave his USB cable on there and not have his phone on there, like I said, it's always going to be on, so it's always going to be draining battery. It won't be a lot, but it could, if you don't use your bike a lot, or say you don't ride as often, it can drain your battery. So next time you go to your bike, it's going to be dead. So having a switch like this, either a LED switch or a non-LED switch, will be a two-pole, pretty much a two connector. This has three connectors because it has the LED part in it. But if it didn't, it would look like this, and it would just be two little spade connectors at the bottom. And this will just prevent your battery from dying. Okay, so now to show you the RAM mount. So here is the RAM mount, and here's the bottom part that would connect to your handlebars. So if we were to loosen this up, this goes down, the little U-bolt goes to the bottom, it connects to your handlebars, and therefore you have your X mount for your cell phone. Now this is the part that I kind of started, but I haven't gone far enough to not completely show you guys. So in order for me to do a cell phone charging port, because I'm going to put it onto the bracket itself, I'm not going to put this port somewhere else on the bike. So I want everything to be convenient for the customer. So what I'm going to do, which I already did, but what you guys are going to do is you're going to grab this cell phone charging port, I would call it, and we're going to put some shoe glue or some epoxy of your choice. I usually use shoe glue because it does hold up really well, and then if you don't want to use it anymore, you could remove it fairly easy. So we're going to put a bunch of glue here. I wouldn't go all the way down to the tip here. I would say probably just above the plus and minus sign. So from above the plus and minus sign all the way up to like right around here, not all the way, but right around here we're going to put just a dab of glue. And then what I did is that on the other side, which I'll show you now that I already did, is that I glued it onto the base of the RAM mount. So this is how it looks like. So as you can see, here's the glue, and I did it all the way down to the bottom. So from here to all the way here, it's a big glop of glue, and it's on there fairly securely. On this part over here is the bolt that this part is on, so it doesn't come off. Just this side would come off if you ever need to unscrew it all the way. So this part doesn't come off, so there's the glue. And then when he needs to put his cell phone on it, you just flip the little cover, and then you're able to put your USB charging cable to here and then start charging your phone. And then when he doesn't need it, he'll take out his cable if he wants to, and then he could just go ahead and close this part for the USB. So you just close it, and now it's secure from the weather. This is where I had put the USB charging port. If you're wondering what this little rubber piece on the back of the RAM mount is, this is to properly secure your cell phone on the RAM mount. Because it has happened in some cases where people would put their phone here, and for some reason, probably the springs, if it's a pretty old unit, maybe the springs are getting loose or something, or they hit a hard enough bump that it goes like that, and therefore your phone just flies away. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there, just check it out. You could type in something like cell phone flying off of RAM mount or something like that, or cell phone holder. So let me show you what it does. So all you do is you put your cell phone in like so, and then what you do is just grab it from the back, and then you just grab these little corners, and then go ahead and put them over the corners of the cell phone. And then same thing for the bottom. Just go ahead and pull it and put it over this. I don't want to stretch it too much because I don't want to stretch it to my phone particularly. I want it to stretch over for his phone. So this is just to hold it in place, so therefore it doesn't fly out. So even if this were to open, it's definitely not going to go anywhere. Even though I don't have it completely. Let me just see if I could stretch this over to kind of show you guys. As you can see, now I have it on there. If I put the other one on there, you'll see it. So if I were to open this, as you could see, it's not going to go anywhere. So as you can see, it doesn't go anywhere, even though these parts are not holding onto the phone at all. That's just a security measure. If you get this particular mount, I'll have a link in the description below on where I had purchased this exact mount, and it comes with the little elastic rubber piece. As you can see, it shows here that it comes with it. That's a good thing about it. And I think it supports up to a iPhone 6 Plus or something like that. Over here, if you look at the other side of the box, it shows you of up to how wide you could use that rubber piece with. So as you can see with my phone, it's not quite all the way, but this one's just a regular 7, I would say. It's a regular 7. All right, so there's the diagram. If you see that your phone is a little bit bigger than this box, they do sell additional ones that are a little bit bigger than this to accommodate up to a bigger cell phone. Okay, so like I wanted to show you, after I already showed you what this little rubber piece does, I wanted to make the switch and everything as convenient as possible for the rider, the customer. So what I'm going to do, instead of hooking up this switch somewhere else on the triple tree, I'm going to pretty much just put it as convenient as possible. So I'll probably put it right around here. So let's get started. Let me show you the tools that you're going to need to do this project. Okay, so here's all the tools you're going to need to do the job. I know it looks overwhelming, but I will go one by one and let you know what they're used for. Alright, so we're going to need the shoe glue, the epoxy, or the epoxy of your choice, to glue this piece over here to the RAM mount, and then also to glue the switch. Next, going to need a soldering iron, negative cable, positive cable, and the gauge for the cable will be 18 gauge rosin core solder. Heat shrink tubing, female spade connectors, scissors, pliers, preferably I'd like to use locking pliers to crimp the female spade connectors, wire strippers, paste flux, which helps with the soldering to make the solder adhere to the wires. Now, if you're going to be making a bracket like I'm going to do for this customer for your switch, additional tools needed is going to be a piece of scrap aluminum, marker, safety glasses, and a face mask, and also a Dremel tool, like in this picture, with a cutting wheel. Also, if you're going to be using the metal method, you're going to need a drill. Also, you're going to need some drill bits to do the metal bracket method. Okay, so now first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to take apart the RAM mount. So all I have to do is just unscrew this part, and then this part, since it is spring activated over here, as soon as you undo it, this thing just fairly comes off almost easily. There you go, it just pops right out. And then to get the top part off, as you can see, I removed that USB charger just because I'm going to be making that metal bracket. So I totally forgot to take that into consideration when I glued it. So like I said, nothing's ever permanent when I do stuff. So just with a little effort, you could actually remove the piece off. Okay, so to undo that, just squeeze the bottom part and it releases. put that off to the side. So since I am going to be doing that metal bracket, like I said, it's up to you if you want to do that metal bracket also. I will show you in this video how to do so. If not, if you just want to use epoxy and glue it to the side over here or to the back, that's totally up to you. Or if you wanted to put it on your triple tree or somewhere on your bike, you could do that as well. To make things a little easier, I'm going to go ahead and just remove this whole thing and just pretty much unscrew the whole thing off. So remove that, remove the little spacer, put that on top, put it off to the side, and then just go ahead and remove it. As you can see, there's going to be a spring inside. Just note that that spring goes here at the bottom of the clamp. What I'm going to do before I actually start cutting the metal piece is I got this pretty much the backing of the little switch that it came with, and I already started I wanted to make sure I did everything right before I actually showed you guys, but unfortunately I did cut this piece a little too short, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this pin or this screw that's already in here as kind of a support anchor for the bracket, along with I'm going to also be you know, making the hole kind of very tight, so when I do slide it in there, it's a tight fit. And then also I'm going to use the epoxy to kind of hold it in place also. So with this as a guidance, as you can see, there's already a hole. I'm going to go ahead and put that over like so. And this will be my I would say like my my template. So even though I already had cut it, that's okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to fold this piece over, so it could be flat over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold this over, so it look like that. And then the other piece, which I'm just going to put it all over here like so, just over it. Then we have our piece over here. Put it against the bracket there, so it looks like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold this piece over, go ahead and fold that over, so it's kind of like hugging the bracket in this USB port thing. And then next what I'm going to do is I had cut a little slit here because I want to put the switch on there. So I cut a slit, then I fold this part over, so it looks like this, as you can see, just on here, cross, fold it over up to here, so now it looks like it's just kind of hugging everything together. And then next what I'm going to do is keep it like so, and then I'm going to put a little hole over here, and then this part, let me undo this part, this actually has a screw, so undo the screw cap, and then I'm going to pretty much make the hole so I could put the switch in like so. So I'm going to go ahead and make the hole, so let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so now I did my hole. As you can see, it's again, this is just a template. I could do the final touches on that one. So once we undo the cap, go ahead and slide this in like so, turn it, and then slide this piece over. Then you can go ahead and get your cap, and then go ahead and tighten this down. Okay, well, pretty much you guys get the idea. I'm not going to tighten it all the way down. So it's going to look something similar to this. Now I'm going to also have the epoxy in here to hold that in place. Then epoxy here, as you can see, I already have put it, but I'm going to redo it again and put the epoxy there so it's kind of sandwiched in between. And then this part's just going to be held right there, and everything should hold in place and not go anywhere. I'm also going to be putting epoxy here in the back for added support, and everything should be nice and well put together when I'm all done. It'll be something similar to this. That way, like I said, when the customer wants to use his port, at least he'll know he can cut off the power when it's not in use, or when he's off the bike, so he doesn't drain the battery completely. So have a switch like that, easy to use with the glove because it is like a big flat piece. So if he has gloves on, he could still turn on the switch. And then this part, you just flip over the little flap and then put your cable in there. And then when he's not using it, he could either leave the cable in there, or he could just take out the cable. And if that's the only cable he has, he could take it out and then just close the little cap right there. So this is pretty much what it's going to look like, and when it's all said and done. All right, so let me now that we already have our template made, now we're going to take the template and we're going to put it onto the metal and then trace what we just did. Okay, so here's our scrap metal. As you can see, I already chopped a piece out there from some different project, and I'm not too worried about the rust because we can get that off with the Dremel tool. So here is our template that we had made from that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this over here, and I'm going to try to use it to cut as less as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and put it along the edges here, make sure that everything is aligned properly. All right, so that looks about right there. Okay, so now that you have everything already aligned, and the only thing we're going to be really cutting, it will be this edge here and this edge over here and the two holes. So let's go ahead and grab our marker and then just trace our lines. As you can see, it gets a little tricky, since try to do the best you can. Go ahead and make our mark. Okay, there's our mark, and then I'm going to make a little line here to indicate that that's where I'm going to make the fold. So this line and this line is going to indicate that little flap that we did for the metal. And I'm just going to make a general circle here for the switch, and then another hole over here for the bracket. So for the bracket part, I'm going to start off small and then continue to drill and keep testing. All right, so I'm going to drill small on this part and continue to put it through. If it's still doesn't go through all the way, I'm going to drill a little bit more until it fits snug on this bolt. Okay, I also wanted to mention that I made it a square. Over here I did write the word cut, and over here I wrote the word fold, meaning that when I put this onto the vise, I'm not going to actually cut the square off. So this part I'm just going to make a slit here. Go ahead and cut along the line, and this part is going to be folded in, so I don't cut it out. So it's just gonna be a slit, so I'm able to fold the piece. So as you can see onto this template, once this part is already cut, I'm gonna go ahead and just make a slit here with the Dremel tool and then fold it, so that way it looks like this. Or I could just fold this piece and make the hole for the switch. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's take our metal bracket piece over to our vise. Okay, so now I got the metal bracket on to the vise, and we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get the Dremel, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut this line across over here. Then I'm gonna move the bracket over, and then I'm gonna cut that the other side off, and then I'm gonna make that little slit right here. Don't forget, when you're gonna be doing anything with a circular saw or Dremel saw or anything like that, don't forget your safety glasses, because you definitely don't want those sparks hitting your eyes, and don't forget your face mask, because you definitely don't want those metal dust particles going into your nose. I'll show you how it looks like afterwards. Okay, now that we already got our piece cut, this is how it should look like. Cut over here, and then with just that little slit there. Now, like I say, you don't have to worry about the rust, because if you use the sanding bit with the Dremel, what I do is just go ahead and use a sander and get all that rust off. Now, I haven't done this side yet, just because we still need to make our holes. Once we make our holes and everything all set and done, and we have, then that's when I'll go ahead and sand off all this rust. Then after that, we're going to go ahead and continue with our bends to get the shape that we want. Okay, now to make the one the hole here that's gonna go over this bolt, we're gonna use is a 1/4 bit, which I'll show you right here. It is this one right there, 1/4. That's the drill bit they're gonna be using to make this hole right here. Okay, now let's check for fitment. We made our hole right here. Here's our RAM mount. Make sure it clears the threads really good. As you can see, it does, and there's not that much free play at all. And it's a perfect fit. Now, if you're wondering, since the plate is covering those little pins, you have to worry, because it's a spring. So once we have our thing in place, we'll have our little spring in there, and then we could just go ahead and well, actually, let's put it right here, and then we could just feed this spring until it actually hits the pin inside. As we could see that. Twist it until it hits the pin. Once it hits the pin, as you can see, it goes on there just like that. And I think with the tension would also hold this plate in place too. It's not really bothering anything. The spring is always going to just going to compress to lock the RAM mount in place. Okay, so everything's looking good. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to grab our marker, and we're going to make a mark on the metal of where we're going to bend the metal. So as you can see, we have it lined up there. Flip it over, and I'm just going to make a mark here at the highest point. So that's where we want to make sure we bend the metal. We're not going to make it the lowest point, because if we do it there, we're going to come up short on the metal when we bend it. So just do it on the highest point. We'll mark it there, and we'll mark it there, and then we'll get a ruler, and then we'll just make a straight line. And that's where we're going to bend the metal, and we're going to make sure we're going to bend it in like so. Okay, at this point, I think it's safe to say that after you do the bend, you could go ahead and sand off all that rust. I figure I'd do it now before I start doing other bends, because it just tends to get really tough on sanding the edges here. So it's already sanded down, so let's go ahead and check fitment. Go ahead and put it like so. All right, it's looking good so far. Okay, next we're going to make another mark, so we could put it over this part. So I believe right there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make my mark along the edge of the battery tender charger, or the charging port. So go ahead and make your mark just pretty much right there. Okay, and that's where we're going to make our second bend over. Okay, so that's going to kind of sandwich everything together. Should go well. All right, so go ahead and make our bend right now. Actually, now that I think about it, as soon as we bend this over, we're not going to be able to put this piece back in. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this part in the bracket, and I'm going to put this to the vise, and then go ahead and bend this piece over. Because after we do that, we could put the glue, and then we could just kind of put this back on there and then have it in there like so. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Keep this part in the vise along with the metal, and then we're just going to go ahead and bend that piece over. Alright, now after a few bendings, and I also figure I might as well bend this piece since I already had it on the vise. This is how it should look like, pretty much wrapped around here. And now to put our piece in. So it should fit pretty snug, because I did try to bend this metal piece so it could fit snug against this USB charging thing. So as you could see, it fits, as soon as I put everything together, it'll fit a little bit more snug than this. But yep, so far it's fitting pretty well. And then once I put the epoxy and everything should fit like a glove. Don't forget, guys, don't forget to round out the edges. You definitely don't want to have any sharp points on your bracket, because you can cut yourself if you are not careful. So once everything's said and done, I'm going to go ahead and round out all the edges. on the bracket. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's make our hole for our switch. Okay, now for the drill bit that we're going to be using to make the hole is going to be a 3/8 inch, and I figured I'd put it through here to just make sure that we got the right size. It's going to be where we have to drill out a little bit more material to get the proper size, but that should work, and the size is right here. Is going to be this one, 3/8 inch. Okay, so let's go ahead and make our hole, which I'm going to try to do as best I can is marking it in the center. So just go ahead, grab your marker, and then just kind of eyeball it on making it right in the center of your bracket. So let's say probably right around there is going to be the center, and I'm going to go ahead and make our hole. Okay, now that we've made our hole, as you could see, I also used a grinding wheel with the Dremel. This is what the grinding wheel I use is kind of tapered. It's small at the one end, bigger at the other end, and that's what I used to kind of ream out the hole a little bit bigger because the drill bit wasn't big enough, and I didn't want to go one bigger size because then it'll be a 1/2 inch and that'll be way too big. So just 3/8 inch drill, and then just ream it out with the sanding or the grinding tool, and then that should be good. Every time you grind a little bit, just check fitment with your switch. Okay, so now that we already bent everything, we got the hole. Let's put our USB charger in place, and it's nice and snug there. And then let's go ahead and put our switch in. Go ahead and fit it through. If it doesn't go in one way, just fit it one way and then put it on. So it looks like we need to grind a little bit more just because the threads of the switch are not fitting all the way. As you can see, it fits through the hole here, which is perfectly fine. I didn't want to go too big, but now that I have it all the way in, it's not fitting over the threads of the switch. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back on the vise and then grind out just a little bit and make sure that it clears the threads. So like I said, go little by little, don't overdo it because then you don't want to be left with a sloppy hole. All right, so let's put this back on the vise and go ahead and make the hole just a little bit bigger to allow the switch to poke right through. And since I'll be over there, I'm going to also grind off these the points of the metal bracket. So I'm just going to go ahead and round out all the points that I see on the metal bracket here. Okay, now that we made the hole a little bit bigger, now let's go ahead and check for fitment on the switch. And it looks like we got it this time. Alright, so it cleared all the threads, as you can see. Now we're able to put our cap and then tighten this thing down. So as you can see, all the edges have been rounded. No more sharp edges. Here is rounded, over here is rounded, these two are rounded. And even though this is not going to bother anybody on the inside, as you can see, it goes fitly nice inside, I still go ahead and rounded off these edges also, just in case he ever happens to loosen up the RAM mount to do some adjustments and this pops out, he won't get cut at all. So this is all rounded out. Okay, so now that we've already completed this part, next what we're going to do, we are going to hide all of this shiny metal, and also to prevent this from rusting, we are going to use our Plasti-Dip black spray paint. So it's Plasti-Dip and it's a flat black color, which will match with the RAM mount. So it'll make this metal look a lot more pretty than what it looks like right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray paint it. But before we spray paint, we want to go ahead and we want to clear up all the metal shavings that are on the metal. So we're going to get some rubbing alcohol, a clean paper towel, and we're going to go ahead and wipe down the metal before painting. Okay, so here's the alcohol I'll be using. It's isopropyl alcohol, 91%. It's mainly what everybody usually has in their house. And then a clean paper towel. Just going to go ahead and dab it like so, and then just go ahead and wipe down the metal. Okay, now that we're done cleaning our metal bracket with the alcohol, as I feel it, I don't feel any more of that powdery metal shavings. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our spray paint. Make sure you have a surface where you're going to paint, and then I'm going to start off with the more flatter edge here, and then I'm going to just work it around. Go ahead and just spray paint all the areas, and don't forget to spray paint on the inside too. So spray paint on the inside over here, then move your bracket over like so and spray paint on that side also. Okay, through the magic of video, now the paint has been dried and already spray painted. So as you can see, that's how it looks like. It looks pretty good. You can see all the imperfections just because of the metal and how when I had sanded it. So I'll spray painted inside there, and also if I move this over, you can see it's spray painted in there. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and put our epoxy down, and we're going to go ahead and put our epoxy over here. But if it's a little too difficult to get in there, you could actually put your epoxy over on this area. So what we're going to do is we're going to put epoxy just above the plus sign, so just a little bit above right over here. So we're going to start over here and then lay it down up to right there. So it'll be just one set of one line of epoxy right there. Then we're going to go ahead and press it inside. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, now that I put the epoxy down, this is how it should look like. Like I said, right above the positive and negative. You don't need that much, just enough to go from up to down. So next we're going to do is we're going to make sure when we put this on there, since our switch is going to go here on the top, we want to make sure this is at the bottom. So now we're just going to go ahead and put this in like so. So probably go from up here and then just go ahead and slide this down to make sure it has a good adhesive contact. And that's how it should look like. Then next, what you want to do is probably put some epoxy over here, and that's probably what I forgot to do. So I'm gonna squeeze some epoxy in here, and then I'll probably put should be enough right there. So that's already epoxied, and then put some epoxy in here to like in this little bracket area. I'm gonna squeeze some inside over there to hold it in place also. Okay, so this is how it's gonna look like after I clean that part off. All right, so this is how it's gonna look like. I put a little bit of epoxy down there. I put some extra over here, a little bit over there, and that's pretty much it. May not look that pretty, but that's the part you're not gonna really see. What you're gonna see is gonna be this part. So as you can see, this little plate blocks everything off, and you're not going to see any of that stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and let this dry for at least a couple hours, and yeah, so we'll get to this back in a couple hours. But until then, we're actually going to go ahead and put our well, we're going to leave this off for now, because we're going to go ahead and make our cables for this. So just go ahead and put this off to the side and let it dry for a couple hours, and then let's move on to the next part. Okay, so while we're waiting for the other part to dry, what we're going to do is we're going to get started with our wiring. So as you can see, the wiring is not that long. I would say this is probably around 2 feet. So this is definitely not going to reach from the back of the battery to the front of the bike. So what we're going to do right now, first we're going to make our connection for our switch. Now for the switch, you're going to see over here, supplied volts, accessories, and earth. So these two first ones, the supply volts and on accessories, is going to be 2 positive cables. Then obviously earth is ground, which is going to be the black cable. So it'll be positive, positive, negative. Okay, so now on our cable here, you want to make sure that when you cut the cable, because we're going to cut cable, or we're going to pretty much cut one part of the cable, you want to make sure you cut the positive. And if you're not sure what the positive is, if you flip this over, you're going to see right on the plastic, you're going to see positive, and then you're going to see negative. So as you could see, you follow this one over here. On the left, it's positive. On the right is negative. So instead of clipping the cables and then trying to guess what's what, even though we'll know what it is over here on this side, and then from this side, you're going to know what it is because it's labeled here. You got your black, and then you have your red. I think for the video, we're just going to go one at a time, so we know that we need to cut for our positive. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the positive first. So it's going to be here on the left here if you're looking at this cable this way. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to clip the cable somewhere around here. We don't have to clip it all the way down here because we know that from our bracket, the cable is going to be pretty much right around there. So I would say you could go ahead and just clip right around here, because we don't want to clip down here and then have cables going all over the place. You want to cut as close as you can, closest to the connector, because that's where it's going to be on the bike. So less cable, the better. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and cut this cable in half. Okay, once you cut the cable in half, as you can see, this is how it looks like. I almost went all the way on the other one, but I didn't. So we cut the cable, and then we're just going to cut in the middle so we could free it up from the other part. So just free it up a little bit. You don't have to go all the way where you don't need that much, so just up to here. So next what we're going to do is we're going to grab our wire strippers, and we're going to strip some of this installation off of the cabling. Okay, so this is what it looks like after you strip the wire. And once you're done stripping it, go ahead and twist the ends like so. And I think for the heck of it, we are not going to need this little cover for the cable, because this is always going to be connected to the power of the USB charger. For the heck of it, I just decided to undo it since we did cut it. So I undid it from here, and then I'll probably cut it over here and then take this whole little cabling part out, because there's no point of having it there if we're never going to use it. Okay, so now that we twist these two ends, now what we're going to do is we are going to grab some positive cable. And again, we don't need to grab that much since we are going to have the bracket fairly close. So I would say it's going to probably be like around here. So all we need to do is just grab just a little bit of cable. So you could just measure it, say probably you could do it like around 6 inches if you want, and then go ahead and cut the cable. Okay, now that we cut our 2 positive cables, if you want to know how many millimeters is the one that I cut, go ahead and we'll put it around there and measure the first one. The first one is 13 millimeters. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to splice both ends. On one end, you don't have to splice that much, because what we're going to do on one end, we're going to put these female spade connectors, and we're going to put that on one end. So on one end, we're going to put that one, and then on the other end we're going to put this one. So just going to go ahead and splice those. And then the other end you want to splice just a little bit more because that's the ones we're going to solder onto our cables over there. Now don't forget to twist the ends of your cables on both ends. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we are going to go ahead and put our female spade connector on. Go ahead and slide that in there like so. And then we're going to grab our pliers and we are going to go ahead and crimp the connectors onto the cable. Okay, once you crimp it, give it a little tug, and once you don't feel that it's coming out, go ahead and put that off to the side. But we're gonna give it another crimp. As you could see inside there, it's not fully crimped down. I'm gonna go ahead and crimp it again. Okay, next what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our heat shrink tubing. We're gonna have two sizes. So for the cable, as you can see here, for the cable we're gonna be grabbing a 1/8 inch size, and then for the spade connector, we're gonna be putting heat shrink tubing over here because we want to make sure that we don't have any metal touching metal when we put on the connector, and that one's gonna be a 1/4 inch size. So 1/4 for the spade and then 1/8 for the cable. Okay, so for the spade, just go ahead and you could go like this and just kind of measure up to there. You can put your finger and then just cut this much because that's all we need. We just want to make sure that we cover the metal. So then I put my finger there. Gonna go ahead and use the scissors, and then you could use it again. You could probably get all the measures because they're all the same obviously, and then just go ahead and cut 3 pieces. Okay, and whatever you don't use, you go ahead and put it back into your box. Okay, so now that we got our 3 pieces, and then for the cable, pretty much just enough for it to cover your exposed cable once you solder. I usually just try to go a little bit more, probably up to there, and then go ahead and cut. And since I'm already there and I measured it particularly to this one, I'm just going to go ahead and slide this one over. Just go ahead and slide this one over all the way. Then do the same thing for the other one. Just measure it up on how much you're really going to need, and then go ahead and cut, and then slip it right over the wire. Slide that over, and then this one I'll just keep off to the side for the, but we're not going to need it for the negative because we're just going to wrap the cable over, but I'll show you that. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to heat shrink the heat shrink over the spade connector. Just make sure you have it even, and then go ahead and use the lighter, which I always try to keep inside with the tubes. Once you have it over like so, like this, just go ahead, use the lighter and shrink the tube over the spade connector. Doesn't take that much heat to actually get this thing to shrink down. There you go. And then do the same thing for the other ones. Okay, I just also wanted to mention, since I just caught this right now, before we actually solder our cables, I realized that the insulation on this cable is a lot thicker than the insulation on this one because this is double insulated. As you can see, when you peel the black one, the insulation of this one's the same as this one. But because it's double insulated, that's why. So when you want to make sure you grab another heat shrink tubing, this one's a 3/16, so it's this one. Just want to cut 2 pieces. I'm still going to put this one anyway to get the main connection, and then we'll put this over so I can get the rest of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and measure these 2 and then cut them, and then slip them over the same on the wire. Okay, so now that I've cut it, put my smaller one, I'm going to slide that one over first, and then I'm going to go ahead and slide the bigger one over that one. It's pretty much like that. And then just slide it all the way to the edge, because if you have it close here, as soon as you put the heat to it, it's going to shrink. You definitely don't want that. Just put it all the way to the edge as far as you can. Then do the same thing with the other one. We've already cut it, so now we're going to slip this one over and put this one all the way to the edge too. So this side's all clear. Okay, so now that we got our 2 cables there, now what we're going to do is we're going to grab these cables and we are going to go ahead and dip them into the paste flux. This is going to help the solder stick to the cable a lot better. So just dip that a little bit. Go ahead and dip that. Might as well dip these little connectors also, or these wires. Go ahead and dip once, and same with that one. I also forgot to mention, don't forget to get your black cable and also measure 13 millimeters. You can see 13 millimeters right on the dot. So this for the negative, and then don't forget to also install your female spade connector and do pretty much the same thing. Just splice one end, get the wire splicer, splice just a little bit, put your female spade connector, and then put the heat shrink tubing over the spade connector so that way it's covered up. Okay, so I pre-wired it so you guys could see what the switch would look like when you turn on the switch. So once we turn on the switch, this whole part should light up blue. Okay, so I already wired everything up. As you can see, positive, positive, negative. So let's go ahead and turn it on. What the heck? That little tiny light, that's not even blue. It's a little brown light bulb. Well, I just feel like I got ripped off. Not what I expected. Let's see how it looks like if we turn off the lights. Oops. Alright guys, as you could see, did not get this type of switch. I thought the whole thing was going to light up blue. It's only this little brown light bulb that's in here. Well, that seems like a big rip-off. Alright guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and return this switch because definitely not what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be a nice, really cool LED blue color, but I'm glad I tested it before actually taking it to the customer's bike, because I'll be very disappointed with this, and I'm sure he would be too after I explained to him that it's going to be a cool looking switch with a blue light in it, and it's not. It's a brown light. Alright, well, I'm still going to do the connections, but I'm going to definitely return this switch and look for something else, because this is very disappointing. So we got the lights back on, and as you can see, I'll even turn them on again. Just that little tiny bulblets in there. Super disappointing. So I'm just going to go ahead and, like I said, we're going to still continue with the installation of the wiring, except since but I will return this switch and see if I can find something that's a true LED. Okay, this is how the cables should look like before you solder them. You want to twist tie them together so they're straight like so. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to solder these two connectors. I want to slip our heat shrink tubing over them and shrink the tube over the wires. Okay, now that we're done soldering the connections, this is how it should look like. We got our two positives and then our one negative. Positive, positive, and then our one negative right here. Now, the reason I didn't put the heat shrink tubing over it is just because I'm so disappointed about that LED, or that supposedly LED switch here, which was a complete rip-off. I left it exposed like this just in case I need to go into plan B. Now, plan B would be just to get a regular switch and then hook up an LED, a separate LED to this connector. So that's my plan B. I hope it doesn't have to come to that, so hopefully I can find a true LED switch, not this garbage, and hook it up. So I'm gonna leave it like that for now, and so I'll get back to you guys on that part. But as far as everything else goes, we do also need to extend this cable, because like I said, this cable is not long enough for it to reach from the battery all the way up to the handlebars. And we also want to make sure that we have plenty of slack on the handlebars with this cable, because you don't want to have enough just to put onto the cable and onto the handlebars, and then once you move your handlebars, it's going to rip the connectors. So you definitely don't want that. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and we are going to cut, I would say probably right around here. Go ahead and cut both of these cables. You don't have to worry about what's positive and negative, because on this end, we do have it marked as black negative and red positive. And also the positive also has the fuse on it. So we're going to go ahead and cut right here, and then we're going to add extended cable. I would say probably around 3 to 4 feet, give or take, of positive and negative cable along with this, because like I said, you want to make sure you have enough slack on the handlebars with the cable so you're not tugging on the cables and possibly damaging something. Okay, so I'm going to use my bike as an example on how far this thing actually reaches. So our battery is located right underneath our seat, and pretty much on most sport bikes, all the batteries are located underneath the seat. So here's our terminals. So actually, yeah, so right around there. And as you can see, it definitely doesn't reach. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, we're going to cut the cabling over here, and then I would say an additional 2 to 3 feet. I'm probably go with 3 feet just to have the extra cable, because it's better to have more cable than less and having to do more soldering. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to measure 3 feet more of cable, and then we're going to go ahead and solder it to the existing cable right over here. Okay, so I went ahead and I measured 4 feet of positive cable. Now for the Yamaha R3, 4 feet is a bit too much. I would say probably like 2 to 3 feet, but because this actual project this project is actually going to a Hayabusa, the bike is a lot longer than the R3. So I measured 4 feet, and that's what I'm going to use. And I'm just going to go ahead and, like I said, we're going to cut right here and then solder from one end on this side, and then on the other end we're going to solder there. So it's going to be 4 feet, probably going to be a total of all like 6 or 7 feet as soon as we're done with all this cabling. So like I said, better safe than sorry. And as soon as I'm done and I put it on the bike, if I have any like cable laying around like so, I go ahead and put zip ties and then just do some, just fold all the cable like so. But like I said, better safe than sorry on this department. If you're also putting this on a Hayabusa also, you want to measure 4 feet of cable. But if you're doing this for an R3, I would say probably 3 feet of cable, 2 to 3 feet of cable, and you should be good. Okay, so I don't want you guys to be lost on what I'm doing. So like I said before, I had cut the cable over here in half, and I stripped it out, and then I twist the ends on both of these, and then the same thing on this one, I twist the ends on both of these. Now, if you're like confused on what's negative and what's positive, if you look inside, the insulation is red for the positive, and the insulation on this one is black for negative. So you don't have to worry about being confused that you might put the negative with the positive and the positive with the negative. So I spliced both of those, and then for the 4 feet of cable, cable, I also spliced the ends of those also on both sides. On this end I spliced it, and then on this end I spliced it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to continue, we're going to go ahead and dip all these cables, or all the ends of the cables, and we're going to dip them into the paste flux, and then we are going to just pretty much extend the cable. So this side's going to go that side, this side's going to go this side, and then it's going to pretty much extend our cable. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So just to give you a little example, let me go ahead and open up the paste flux and dip the cables in there. Dip that like so. Dip also these in there too. And then also don't forget to slip on your heat shrink tubing. So, but for now, since the other end is still open, we could slide that out, slide that on after we're done over here. So go ahead and then do it at a crisscross, and then just flip one over one side and then flip it on the other side, and that's how I get these straight style solder cables. And then do the same thing with the negative. This might get a little messy just because of all the paste flux, so just make sure you have a clean paper towel to wipe your hands. Okay, once you do that, now you can go ahead and solder that connection, and you want to do that with the same thing with the other side. Okay, now once you're done with your connections, this is how it should look like. You have your positive and negative there. There's our soldered area right there. Then 4 feet of cable. Then it continues there, and it's soldered right there. Then this is the part that goes by your bike, by your handlebars. So if it was on the bike, I'll go ahead and put that over here by the handlebars. And like I said, this is there, that goes that. I'll just tuck this in over here by the seat, and then this part doesn't seem to want to work out. Put that by the seat, then this part goes over here by the handlebars. So as you can see, there is the whole entire length of the extended cables. Now, like I said, if it's going for an R3, you don't need that much cables. I would say between the 2 to 3 feet of cable should work fine. But because this USB charging port is going to a Hayabusa, that's because the bike is longer, so that's why I need that much more cable. Okay, now that we're done with the wiring section, now we'll go back to our main part. And as you can see, the glue is pretty much so far, I would say, dry. But I would like to, finish up this video so I can show you guys on a working product. Okay, so now that we're done with this part and it's already dry, or for the most part dry, we're going to put this back together. So we're going to, before we put this part on, we want to grab that spring. Now the spring is going to go towards the bottom. So just find a spot in here and then just twist it until it gets onto that little, bracket like this, the little peg. So it's going to go ahead and the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. Then once you get it in there, you can go ahead and twist it and it should fall into place. Okay, so since I started screwing the spring in there, I noticed that it wasn't completely on the peg. So I used the screwdriver just to guide it to get it onto the little peg area. Now the peg I'm talking about isn't like this one. It looks like that, but on this one. Okay, so now that I screwed it on and pretty much got it seated to that peg in there, now we're going to grab this one and we're just going to put the bolt through the hole here and then make sure that this little spring is on this peg. Now it doesn't really matter if you have it this way or this way. It's pretty much the same thing on both ends. So let's go ahead and put that screw bolt in there, and then I'm going to guide the spring onto that peg right there. And okay, so now that we got it on there, now next what we're going to do is we're going to grab our spacer here. So I'm going to grab the little spacer that goes right there, and then grab this piece and then screw this on. Now we're not going to screw it in all the way because we still need to put our base and the X grip. Now on the bottom is going to go the base, and the top is going to be the X grip. So what we're going to do is we're going to squeeze this bottom piece to open it up on the top. Okay, now that we got that part on there, okay, now we're going to go ahead and put this one on the bottom. And if you're having a hard time to put this in, just loosen this part up a little bit and it should go in. Okay, now that we got that on there, now we can go ahead and tighten it down. I would say not all the way, but like snug, because you're still going to be doing your adjustments as soon as you put it on the bike. Okay, so that's pretty much how it looks like. So as you can see, since it's all black, it pretty much looks like it came this way. So you got the bracket, like I said, when it's on the bike, you're not going to see it because this little plate blocks it. So we have our tender charger right here, and then we have the hole for our switch. Now because I was disappointed with the switch that I did get, I am going to put the switch on there now just so I can show you a working charger. So I'm just going to go ahead and unscrew this piece, and then we're going to go ahead and put that on there, and then we're going to tighten up. Now say when I do get the new piece, or if you if you guys got a new one, or once I post the newer switch, all you have to do is just put it on there and then put this little cap and then screw it down and tighten it down on the switch. Okay, so now if it's with the switch, this is how it would look like. We have our power switch here, we have our charger right here, and then turn it on, turn it off. I'm gonna hook everything up for you guys so you guys could see it as a working system. Okay, once you have your switch on there, you want to go ahead and you want to wire it up now. So if you look at it again, you got your volt supply, accessory, and your ground, your negative. So positive, positive, negative. Okay, so let's go ahead and connect that part. So we're gonna grab our positive right here. Okay, once you have all your wires connected there, now you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna plug this part onto the battery charger or the cell phone charger itself. So we're going to go ahead and move this out of the way, and we are going to go ahead and plug this in. So make sure that you're careful, and you might want to hold on to the charger itself when you're doing this. Okay, it's going to go ahead and slide it on, and as you can see, it's already slid on. And this is pretty much how it is. It doesn't really go in all the way, I don't think, because I've tried pushing this in before and it didn't go in all the way. So this part's always going to be exposed like that. Okay, so now that you have this part connected and you got your cables on connected for the switch, now all you have to do is all you have to do now is just connect it to the battery. Okay, so I'm just going to turn that like so. Actually, we'll just leave it down like this, because now that we have this part, it's not going to be sitting on the table so well. So we're just going to keep this down. Okay, so I do have a test battery that I usually use to test out LEDs and stuff like that, but we'll say for now that this is your motorcycle battery. So we're gonna, as you can see, these parts are already marked positive, negative. So what we're gonna do is we are going to connect this to your battery. So let's go ahead and connect the negative on there to the negative post, and then the positive to the positive post. I'm gonna put this piece on there as a secure. Okay, so now that we have this part already connected to your battery, then we have this part already connected to our switch and our charger. So now we're gonna go ahead and put our phone like we were if we were on our motorcycle, and we have this right there. Okay, and then we are gonna connect our charging cable. So all I have to do is just grab this. Okay, so just flip the little lid right here to expose the USB port. We're gonna grab our cable, our charging cable. Does this always happen to you guys too? I never seem to get it right the first time. All right, so now that we have our charging cable on there, go ahead and connect it to our phone here. All right, now to simulate that we're on our bike. And this is how the unit looks like with the cable on there up to your battery. So then when you want to turn on power, once you get on your bike and you turn on the power to charge your cell phone. Okay, so when you turn on the switch to turn on power for your cell phone, you can see the light turns on. Over here it says charged. As you can see, here is the indication to let you know that the system is charging. It's so weird that you see a little light over here, even though in real life you don't see nothing. I'm guessing it's some type of infrared sensor, because in real life there's nothing there shining. So that's pretty cool to see in the camera that it's picking it up, but in real life, like I said, there is nothing there. All right, there you guys have it. That's how you do a charging port to an existing cell phone holder. Or if you actually did the whole entire thing like I did, or you purchased a brand new RAM mount or any type of cell phone holder and you did this particular install, give it a thumbs up if you found it helpful. So and then when you're done using your phone, using the charger, and then you get off of your bike, you have your indication light that's showing you that your connection is still on. You could go ahead and you could turn it off like so. Therefore it cuts off power, and as you can see, the charging indicator is not on anymore, showing that there is no power going to the phone to charge it. All right guys, I'm over here at the customer's garage working on his bike. Reason I'm talking kind of quiet is because it is late night, but I do want to show you that I am working on his Hayabusa here, as you can see, and I've already installed the RAM mount on his handlebars, so it's already on there. I just wanted to note to you guys that the fuse that it comes with is a 7.5 amp fuse. I suggest changing it to a 15. So replace the one that's in there and replace it with a 15, because it looks like that 7.5 amp fuse pops really easily. So I wouldn't go higher than 15. 15 is pretty much the standard accessory fuse. Alright, so once you put the 15 amp fuse in there, you could go ahead and cover this up. And then what I'm going to pretty much do is remove some of this plastic so I can tuck in the wires alongside of his bike, and then get to the battery. You want to make sure that when you do this, when you're doing it on your bike, either a Hayabusa or any other bike in particular, that you give yourself enough slack. So even though you want to make sure everything is nice and tight, just make sure you give yourself enough wire out there, because when you turn your handlebars, you want to make sure that you have enough cable and not have everything being tugged on. Okay, so I want to show you guys that I did replace that switch, that cheap one that I had originally, and I got this one, which is a true LED light. The LED is here on the top. It pretty much works the same as the other one. It still had the 3 terminals, the 2 powers, and the ground. So now when the customer turns on for power for his charging port, all he does is push down, and as you can see, it's a really bright blue LED. So he knows that there's power going towards the charging port. And this is also indicating light to let him know that, hey, the power is on. And then when he's not in no longer need of using the charging port, just turns it off. But you could already see in how bright that blue LED is. And they also have different other ones. You could get a red one, blue one. I'll have a link in the description below on where I purchased this one. All right, there you guys have it. The complete installation of this little accessory USB phone charging to the RAM mount or any particular mount. I'll turn it on. Hopefully it doesn't blind the camera here. All right, so there you guys have it. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the notification button so you guys can get the newest videos when I post them. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and thanks for watching.